How did this American Airlines Bombardier CRJ700 series regional jet plane and this Sikorsky UH-60 military Blackhawk helicopter end up in a mid-air collision together on January 29th, 2025 on the Potomac River, just as the plane was about to land at Ronald Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C.? We are going to take a look into where the NTSB is with their investigation so far, and we're going to try to determine how both of these aircraft ended up like this, so that this doesn't happen again to any other pair of aircraft. Today we are going to see this crash scenario exactly as the passengers aboard the plane would have seen it. Let me just give you a brief overview of what was going on in this area right here. So this is the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. It's about 5 miles away from the airport, which is right here. And so originally what happened was American Airlines Flight 5342 was on an approach here coming into runway 1. So this is the busiest airport runway in the world, according to the media. And so what happens is a lot of times if you've ever been by an airport and you see at night all of the stars up in the sky from the airlines, they look like stars and they're all coming in one after another and they're just stacked up. And so what happens is if you get too close to the plane in front of you when you're coming in, you're going to hit their wake turbulence from their wings, and it could cause problems for you. And then not only that, American Airlines Flight 5342 was actually too close to the plane in front of it. So what happened was the air traffic controllers asked them if they wanted to reroute and come in over here on runway 33.
At 8:43:06, the crew made initial contact with the DCA tower. The tower controller then asked if the crew could switch to runway 33. After a brief discussion between the crew, they agreed to runway 33.
Oh man, what a fateful decision that was. This is going to come back to bite them later. In fact, this is going to lead to their deaths, actually. I hate these cases where, you hear like somebody was supposed to be on that flight and wasn't, and they survived, or somebody that died on a flight, wasn't supposed to be on that flight. This is one of these cases where they were supposed to be on runway 1 and they chose runway 33 and the rest is history. And they said yes. So that then brings them up this way. They'll pass the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. They come right across here like this. And then at the last second, they turn and come across the Potomac here, and then they land, and that's what was happening. And so here is that turn path right here, which happened kind of like right opposite of Arnold Avenue Southwest, right here along the Potomac, and that's at the Joint Base. So here's the Defense Intelligence Agency building is over here. So it turned left just before that, and then this red line marks the path of the helicopter, and they both collided right here in this general area as the plane was approaching, getting ready to land at runway 33. So it's about a half a mile away, who knows, maybe 30 seconds or so. They're only at 325 feet at this point. And by the way, just to give you an idea of how close everything is, where the proximity is, this is where the runway was, this is where the crash happened right here. And then right next to it actually is where they keep Marine One hangar, see? So the president's helicopters are kept right there at the Department of Defense, and probably mostly at Andrews Air Force Base. There's your Secret Service right there. And then a little bit further up the way here, right here is your National Mall. So the Lincoln Memorial is here, the Washington Monument's here, the White House is here. So the White House looks like it's about, 3 miles at the very most away from the airport. So this all happened very close to the White House. I mean, things could have gone different if it was maybe say another plane coming in this way. Who knows what might have happened.
At 8:46:01, a radio transmission from the tower was audible, informing Pat 25 that traffic just south of the Wilson Bridge was a CRJ at 1,200 feet circling to runway 33.
And so you see the helicopter was on its normal Route 1 and getting ready to switch over here to Route 4. This is the area where the helicopters normally fly. And I don't know, perhaps they should have moved this route inland a little bit over to here on the right. I think you're going to start seeing people pushing for that later on. There's no reason to have a helicopter over here flying at the same time that a plane is coming in. When the plane's at 300 feet and the helicopter is supposed to be at 200 feet, you're only talking about 100-foot difference. That to me is not enough margin of error. What is enough margin of error is if you had route number 1 going way over here and continuing to route 4 along this way. Just change where the routes are going so that the planes are over here and they'll never have to worry about it. They can land with no problem.
At 8:46:29, the crew received a 1,000-foot automated call-out. At 8:46:47, DCA Tower cleared other jet traffic on runway 1 for departure with no delay. At 8:47:29, the crew received a 500-foot automated call-out. At 8:47:39, a radio transmission from the tower was audible asking Pat 25 if the CRJ was in sight. 1 second later, the crew received an automated traffic advisory stating traffic. At 8:47:42, a radio transmission from the tower was audible directing Pat 25 to pass behind the CRJ. At 8:47:58, the crew had a verbal reaction, and FDR data showed the airplane beginning to increase its pitch. Sounds of impact were audible about 1 second later, followed by the end of the recording.
Now, this seems eerie, but I want to show you the view from the passengers that they had from sitting on that plane right at the moment that it impacted with the Blackhawk helicopter. And we're going to use video shot by other people who have taken that same path successfully before and landed safely at the airport. So here it is, flying right over the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. It's right below the wing now, and you'll see it appear on the backside of the wing on the left part of your screen. That's the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, about 5.5 miles away from the airport. And so you see here, it's flying over land right now, right at the edge of the Potomac River. And at any second now, you're going to see it start to make its little turn. So here it is. It's going to make its turn to the left, heading over towards the airport in just a second here. Now you can see the airport appearing on the upper right-hand part of your screen up there. So I want you to keep in mind, folks, this is what all of the passengers are seeing right now, and that they're all probably about 30 seconds away from death right now, and they don't even know it. Right. So now the plane is banking that left-hand turn that you've seen on all the maps, and the point of collision is going to be coming up right here any second here now. So it's going to clear the coastline of the Potomac River right here, and you can see the airport in the upper right-hand corner of your screen already. So we're not even a half a mile. We're basically 30 seconds away from landing right now. So we're 300 feet up in the air right here, and it was right around this spot right here. So here's CNN's now famous exclusive video showing the helicopter crash right into the American Airlines plane. Now, I can't show you the collision, nor the explosion, nor the planes dropping into the water because it violates YouTube's policies. And of course, they'll demonetize me and put the kibosh on the video. You know the rules. You've seen it a million times by now anyway. You know what it does anyhow. Slowed it down for you by 5x, and you can see all the lights were working on both planes. Even on the chopper, it was blinking. And then they showed a slightly different angle from a security cam at the airport. So here you can see the landing lights on the plane. They're coming right at us, right at the screen. And then from the left side is the helicopter, of course, approaching it, coming right to it. And it's just amazing that neither of them saw each other until even the last possible second. So we are now leaving the point at which the helicopter and the plane have collided and dropped into the river. But this is what should have happened right here. The plane should have just kept on going, and here's the airport right here. And we're probably about 50 feet off the ground by now, and we're coming in for the landing, and there's runway 33 right there. And so this, ladies and gentlemen, is what was supposed to happen. They were supposed to just land like this uneventfully, but of course we know that wasn't the case. And then this is the view that the flight crew aboard the American Airlines jet would have seen or should have seen as they were coming in to the runway there. So you're coming in right off of the Potomac River, and there's your 33 right there on the runway, and you're going to land right there, and it really is just that simple. That's the way it should have been. Now I want you to think about this for a minute. Just imagine this last snapshot that I showed you of what the passengers are seeing just 1 second before the Blackhawk helicopter crashes into the CJR, okay? So here you are, a passenger, you're looking out the window, you see the water just 300 feet below you, you're 30 seconds away from landing, you can see the runway coming up at you, and you're thinking to yourself, oh man, I can't wait to see so-and-so, and then lights out, just that quick. They're all dead right then and there. So it just shows you how life can turn on you on a dime like that. You can think you've got all these plans made, and then all of a sudden, bam, it gets cut off. And for some people, it's so instantaneous. It kind of reminds me of the guys that were down in that Ocean Gate Titan sub. You saw my videos last year on that, right? Did that whole series of videos on it. It reminds me of them, how their death just came like that. They were just sitting there probably not knowing anything was wrong, and then poof, same exact thing, man. So make sure you're living your lives to the fullest. And then today, the NTSB released these photographs for us. And here's a couple here showing the Blackhawk helicopter. And you can see how far it is from the plane in the background. And then there's a close-up shot of the plane itself. And another shot of the plane. And then we have some video coming up right here. And they also released video here where they were trying to get at the Blackhawk helicopter. They're trying to retrieve the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder as well. But they can't seem to get at it, I guess because it's such a mangled mess. They don't think it's very safe. So what they have to do is they got to wait till they get all of the plane parts up. And once that's out of the way, then they're going to concentrate on pulling up the Blackhawk. It's probably a lot easier to put it on the deck of a boat and then start working on it than it is when it's upside down in the water. At least the Blackhawk looks like it did not break into like hundreds and hundreds of pieces. Certainly not like the plane in Philly. The NTSB also released this drone video that they took. So here's the American Airlines plane, the CJR, right there on the water. And it's in several pieces, but it's sort of pretty close together. And then there's some video that they got of the Blackhawk, and it looks like it's probably laying down there in about 8 feet deep of water. And it looks mostly intact also. So the question is, with all of these professional pilots, these are all top of their class, these are all really good guys that know what they're doing. How did they get this miscommunication here? How did they end up like this? How did they not see each other? Why was the helicopter at 325 feet when the ceiling for it is at 200 feet? So was there equipment failure, radar failure? So really, until they recover at least the voice recorder and the flight data recorder from the Blackhawk to give us more information. Plus, they can also tell us at that point in time where they were in their eye goggles or not, the nighttime vision there. We know that sometimes these city lights can cause a lot of problems with these night vision goggles. So who knows what the cause is at this point. Now, I know a lot of conspiracy theory people are going to be saying, look, this thing, it looks like it headed right towards it. How could you not miss a plane like that? That's the big question. That's their reasoning. And so the actual truth here, folks, is that it's very difficult to aim for a moving plane that's going that fast and actually hit it. But yet, here we are. We're stuck with this conundrum here about how do we answer the fact that, well, it did hit it. And it hit it, if I'm claiming correctly, it hit it randomly. And so you're thinking, there's no way it could have been random. But you know what? We have, on average, about 35 midair collisions a year in the United States. You typically don't hear about them because they're two small planes that collide over, some cow pasture somewhere, and you don't ever really hear much of it on the major news. But about 70 people die in the United States every year from these midair collisions, about 35 of them. And of course, don't forget that famous one back in California back in 1978. So this was a Boeing 727 that was coming in for a landing. It was about 3 miles away from Lindbergh Field in San Diego, and it got hit by a Cessna, And that was a very famous crash because there was famous pictures sent all around the world where people got pictures of that plane coming down, and it was in flames, flying its way down to the ground where it crashed. And of course, there was no survivors on either plane. So these types of occurrences, they do happen. They're fairly rare, but they do happen. And yes, I know it's mind-boggling because when you look at this little point in the sky where one little plane could be, and the whole sky is infinitely out this way, how could there be 2 points at the exact same space right there, just like this? Well, that's what happens at a crowded airport. So this is cool to see here. So they're opening up the flight data recorder that they got out of the American Airlines jet. And of course, when they find something like that underwater, they have to bring it back to the lab submerged in water. They leave it like that until they get it to the lab and opened. So they usually just leave it filled in the bucket with water. Sometimes it's ionized water. I don't know if they're using any alcohol. I know when I worked as an electrical engineer at Motorola, we used to clean printed circuit boards that came back with water damage and, crystalline dendrite growth and stains and stuff. We would use alcohol on the printed circuit boards. So that's what they're doing here. They're just draining all of the water out of it, and now they're going to open it up. And of course, they're taking pictures from several different angles as well. So that's what it looks like. You can see why this thing survives crashes, just because it's built like a tank. And even though they call them black boxes, they're actually orange. And then you can see as they open it up, they're examining the printed circuit board. And this, of course, has solid state chips in there. So there's no moving parts. There's no tape drives or anything like they may have had in years past. Now here it looks like he is examining the zero insertion force ribbon cable that goes into a connector at the end there. And I think they're trying to clean it out because probably some water got in there. So it looks like he's got a Q-tip there. Probably alcohol. So they're trying to get rid of any dendrite growth that would occur there from the water stains or any, calcium deposits, any of that type of stuff that you would find under the water. Hey, and don't forget to let us know in the comments here what you think is the cause of this crash. And make sure you see the other video I did here on the Philadelphia MedJet crash as well. That happened just a couple of days later. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see all of you on the next one.